Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and today we're visiting with Dr. Grant Gardner. He's with the University of Kentucky as Extension Grain Marketing Specialist there. But I think the first thing is we did pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, and there are some things in that that'll directly affect grain farmers.
And so if we look back when that bill was passed, they really shoved in some of the financial ends of the farm bill. And so that was all in reconciliation. But what really they pushed in there were really the important items that would help at the farm gate. And so the big one is increase in reference prices. And so that increase in reference prices will add more protection to the producer's bottom line moving forward. And so really when we think about those ARC and PLC programs, they are subsidized through the farm bill, and they're a free of cost kind of price floor for the producer. And so in a down year, they do cover, lost profits. From there, the other big thing that I think is going to be really beneficial for the state of Kentucky is we are able to reallocate base acres. But a base acre was basically allocated back when these payments started coming up, and they haven't really been changed since then. And so what's happened is that anything that was in production, you could say back in 1997, probably has some sort of base acre that goes with it, meaning that it has some of this ARC PLC protection. Well, what's happened since then is we've seen an expansion of crop acres. And so especially if we look at the central part of the state, we have a lot of farmers that are growing crops without that protection of the ARC PLC program. And so what this will do is allow them to enroll some of their previous cropping history into the base acre program, and they'll actually be able to obtain some of those safety net payments should we be in a downturn.
I think it's important for maybe them that are not in production agriculture to realize that farmers, with the commodity prices the way they are and inputs being the way they are, we're not looking at a break-even situation.
No, and I think this year, especially if we look back last year and this year, and then even next year moving forward, I think we're looking at break even as your best case scenario. And so what that means for the farm producer is anything that you put into growing a crop, so your inputs you're paying for, and then you cover that cost when you actually harvest the crop later on and sell it. And so if we're just saying that all they're doing is break even, that's not providing any profit for family living expenses, anything to keep that family going. All they're simply doing is basically it comes out to growing a crop for free.
Yeah. And then I have people say, well, why do they do it? Why don't they just raise something else? But with our grain production infrastructure the way it is, it's just really hard for farmers to pivot into something else.
It is. And so if you start looking at alternative options, obviously there's other crops you can grow, but you come down to labor constraints, you come down to land constraints. Do you want that land in use, or you let it sit there? And if you just let it sit there, you're losing money either way because you're still paying taxes on that owned land. And so really there's not a great decision when you start to look at what else do we grow in this area. And a lot of that comes down to just as we've moved through history, how the crop landscape has evolved.
The other big rumored situation, which we really don't have a lot of answers because the government shut down right now. And I think that causes some delay in some of the things that might happen to help grain farmers out.
Yeah. And so one of the big issues is, I think these were great things that were passed in the big, beautiful bill. And long term, they are going to be great for the farm community or great for the farmer in general. That said, they don't kick into place until next year. And so we are in this large gap currently where we've had a down year last year where people didn't make money at all or made very little. You're looking at the same thing this year. And so then next year, we're looking at higher input prices they're about 120% of where they were at last year. And so things don't look good next year either. And so what people are trying to figure out is, can they keep farming? And right now, I think, without some sort of subsidy payment, it doesn't look great because you've got to be able to pay that operating loan from last year, get a new line of credit for the next year. And I think, even financial institutions are pointing out that for a lot of farmers, this doesn't look great without some sort of lifeline to keep them moving into the next year. I think, as we move past this year, I think things start to look up for sure. But right now, we're kind of in that middle segment where it's how do we make it to that point? And so the agricultural economics EPU, we put that out once a month. And actually what we've talked about today, I've already written the article that'll come out next month, but I am looking at, what is the expansion of base and what could that look at like in Kentucky? I don't put dollars to it, But I am just looking at, okay, if we look back at historical plannings, how much extra base acres and thus how much more protection could we see within the state?
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.